Long before cigarettes, lighters, tobacco companies, or warning labels, ancient humans were already gathering around fire. Imagine the scene at night. No cities, no hospitals, no electricity, no written language. Only darkness, cold air, animal sounds beyond the firelight, and a small group sitting close together because distance from the group could mean death. Someone places a plant near the flame. Smoke rises, the smell changes, the silence changes, the mood changes. Maybe it is used before a hunt. Maybe it is part of healing. Maybe it is offered to the dead. Maybe it simply makes fear feel smaller for a moment. To us, smoking usually means addiction, cigarettes, health warnings, and modern industry. But to ancient humans, smoke may have meant something different. It may have meant ritual, medicine, courage, belonging, transformation. So the real question is not only when humans started smoking. The deeper question is why the human brain became drawn to smoke at all. Why do we turn plants into symbols? Why do we repeat behaviors that calm us, even when they can later control us? And what does the first smoke reveal about the ancient mind we still carry today? Today, Psychify Sager goes thousands of years before modern tobacco culture to explore smoke, ritual, stress relief, social bonding, and addiction. Because this is not just a story of tobacco, this is the story of how humans learn to soothe the mind. And there is another reason this question matters. Smoking is usually discussed as a health problem or a personal habit, but that is the end of the story, not the beginning. At the beginning, smoke was not packaged. It was atmospheric. It belonged to the fire, the night, the group, the body, and the imagination. The first smoke was not a brand. It was an experience. If we only ask when humans found tobacco, we miss the deeper mystery. Why does the human mind keep reaching for altered states? Why do we want something outside us to change what is happening inside us? That question is much older than cigarettes. The first mistake is imagining ancient humans holding something like a modern cigarette. That picture is too recent, too industrial, and too clean. There were no paper rolls, filters, plastic lighters, branded packs, or smoke breaks outside office buildings. When we talk about ancient smoking, we're talking about burned plants, hearths, seeds, pipes, residues, rituals, and early experiments with substances that changed the body and mind. One of the most striking clues comes from the Wishbone site in Utah. Archaeologists found evidence suggesting humans used tobacco roughly 12,300 years ago. That is older than agriculture in many regions, older than cities, older than writing, and almost every institution we usually associate with civilization. But we have to be careful with the word smoking. The evidence points to tobacco use near a hearth, not necessarily to a person inhaling tobacco exactly the way modern smokers do. It could have involved smoke. It could have involved chewing. It could have been medicinal, symbolic, practical, or ceremonial. The point is not that ancient people invented cigarettes. The point is that very early humans were already interacting with powerful plants in meaningful ways. They did not separate chemistry, ritual, medicine, and spirituality the way modern categories do. A plant could be food, tool, poison, medicine, symbol, offering, and mystery at the same time. So the oldest clue gives us a strange tension. We can see the burned remains. We can date the site. We can say tobacco was used very early, but we cannot climb inside the ancient mind and ask what the smoke meant. That is where psychology becomes useful, because even when the exact method is uncertain, the emotional pattern is familiar. Humans under pressure find objects, actions, smells, sounds, and substances that help them change their inner state. That pattern did not begin with modern cigarettes. It began with the ancient problem of being conscious in a dangerous world. The wishbone clue is powerful because it forces us to stretch our timeline. When people think about smoking, they imagine the modern world, factories, advertising, addiction science, lung warnings, and social stigma. But the archaeological record points toward a far older relationship between humans and tobacco. This does not mean every ancient use was casual, recreational, or addictive in the modern sense. In fact, the safer interpretation is that tobacco was part of a wider world of plant knowledge. Ancient people watched plants carefully. They knew which roots fed them, which leaves hurt them, which smells repelled insects, which barks soothed pain, and which substances changed sensation. A plant that affected the body would not remain ordinary for long. It would become remembered, taught, protected, feared, traded, or ritualized. So a few burned seeds are not just biological remains. They are a doorway into a relationship between humans, plants, fire, and the mind. There is another reason to be careful. Archaeology often gives us traces, not motives. A burned seed can tell us something happens near a hearth. It cannot tell us whether the person felt sacred awe, pain relief, curiosity, boredom, grief, or social pressure. That uncertainty should not weaken the video. It actually makes the story better, because the gap between evidence and motive is where the psychology lives. We can say what the evidence suggests, and then ask what kinds of human needs would make such a practice meaningful. To understand why smoke mattered, we have to remember what life before comfort felt like. Modern people experience stress, but ancient humans lived inside uncertainty as a permanent condition. There was no stable supermarket, no painkiller shelf, no emergency room, no weather app, no guaranteed shelter, and no digital distraction waiting in the pocket. A wound could become fatal. A storm could destroy safety. A failed hunt could mean hunger. A strange sound in the dark could mean predator, enemy, or death. Loss was not an occasional interruption. It was part of the environment. Children died more often. Infections spread without explanation. Pain had no easy treatment. Grief had no therapist waiting with language for trauma. The nervous system had to carry all of this. Imagine a body that spends its life scanning the horizon, listening for danger, smelling the air, reading faces, tracking food, and calculating whether the group will survive another season. That kind of stress does not only live in thoughts, it lives in breath, it lives in muscle tension, it lives in ritual, it lives in anything that gives the body a pause. Before comfort, relief was precious. Anything that slowed fear, created rhythm, marked the transition, or made the invisible feel manageable could become meaningful. This is why ancient smoke cannot be understood only as plant chemistry. It has to be understood as a response to an emotional world with almost no control. A group could not control thunder. They could not control death. They could not control disease. They could not control whether animals appeared tomorrow. But they could gather. They could light a fire. They could repeat a sequence. They could pass an object. They could watch smoke rise. And the brain loves any action that says, we are doing something, even if the action does not solve the whole problem. It can reduce helplessness. That is one of the most painful human states, feeling that danger is real and there is nothing you can do. Smoke offered a visible action in the face of invisible fear. It gave shape to emotion. It gave the group a rhythm. And sometimes the feeling of rhythm is the first form of relief. This does not mean ancient people were miserable every second. They laughed, played, bonded, loved, taught children, made tools, created art, and built meaning. But their baseline environment demanded more vigilance than ours. Comfort was not automatic. Safety was temporary. Food was uncertain. Night was psychologically heavier. The ancient nervous system had to become skilled at recovering from fear without modern language for recovery. That is why small changes in state mattered so much. A smell, a chant, a warm circle, a repeated gesture, or shared silence could help the body move from alarm into togetherness. When a group is frightened, regulation spreads socially. One calm elder can lower the room. one repeated ritual can make the group breathe together. One fire can turn scattered fear into shared attention. Smoke may have worked inside that social nervous system. It could become a cue that the group had moved from survival chaos into ritual space. Pain also shaped attention differently. When a modern person feels discomfort, there may be dozens of escape routes available within seconds. For ancient humans, escape routes were limited and communal. A person could not simply numb themselves privately with endless entertainment. Relief often had to be created through the group, the body, the fire, the story, and the ritual. That means ancient stress relief was likely more embodied and more social than many modern forms of escape. Fire was not only a tool for cooking meat or warming cold hands. Fire changed the psychology of human life. Before fire, night belonged more completely to darkness. After fire, night became a social space. A flame creates a circle. It tells the group where to sit. It makes faces visible. It pushes danger outward. It turns fear into a border. Inside the firelight, humans could talk, remember, imitate, teach, mourn, laugh, and imagine. Fire did not only extend the day, it extended the mind. Around fire, stories become easier. A flickering flame makes the world feel different from ordinary daylight. It lowers the speed of practical survival and opens a space for meaning. The body becomes warmer, the eyes focus, the group becomes still. The outside world remains dangerous, but for a moment, the center feels held. That is why fire may have been one of humanity's first tools for emotional regulation. Not therapy in the modern sense, not meditation as a named practice, but a reliable shift in state. Fear outside, warmth inside. Chaos outside, pattern inside. Darkness outside, faces inside. And wherever fire exists, smoke follows. Fire burns bright, but smoke moves like something alive. It rises, curls, disappears, changes shape, carries smell, stings the eyes, enters the breath, and marks the air with presence. To an ancient mind, smoke could easily feel like a bridge between worlds. It begins in matter, but vanishes into sky. It comes from plants, bones, resin, wood, or leaves, yet it turns into something almost invisible. This is exactly the kind of thing human minds turn into symbol. Because the brain is not only a survival machine, it is also a meaning-making machine. When something appears, transforms, and disappears, the mind asks what it means. Fire gave humans warmth. Smoke gave humans mystery. And once mystery enters a group, ritual is never far behind. Think about how different a conversation feels beside fire. People do not look at one another constantly. They look into the flame. That shared focus can make difficult emotions safer to express. A person can speak about fear, memory, or loss without staring directly into another person's eyes. The fire holds the attention for the group. This matters because human social life is intense. Direct attention can feel threatening. Shared attention can feel bonding. A flame gives people a third thing to look at together. It becomes a social anchor. Smoke added movement to that anchor. It made the air itself seem to participate in the moment. If the fire was the center, smoke was the message leaving the center. And once humans found that certain plants changed the smell, thickness, color, or effect of the smoke, curiosity would naturally follow. Fire also created timing. Before artificial light, the rhythm of the day was ruled by sun, hunger, fatigue, and season. Fire allowed a new kind of time after work was done. This was not just extra time, it was psychologically different time. Daylight is practical. Firelight is reflective. Daylight asks what must be done. Firelight asks what it all means. When smoke rises, it does something psychologically powerful. It makes transformation visible. A solid plant becomes scent. Wood becomes air. A small offering becomes a moving shape. In many cultures across time, rising smoke has been associated with prayer, spirits, ancestors, cleansing, healing, protection, and transition. The exact beliefs differ, but the psychological pattern is easy to understand. Smoke looks like matter becoming message. It looks as if something from the human world is traveling upward into an unseen world. If you are an ancient person grieving someone, smoke can feel like a path. If you are afraid before a hunt, smoke can feel like courage leaving the fire and entering the body. If someone is sick, smoke can feel like the group doing something against the invisible force of illness. If a storm, dream, or death cannot be explained, smoke can become a language for what words cannot hold. This does not mean every ancient use of smoke was religious. Some smoke may have been practical. Some plants repel insects. Some fumes change smell. Some substances affect alertness, mood, or pain. But humans rarely keep practical things purely practical for long. If a practice happens at the fire, in a group, with repetition, smell, silence, fear, and hope, it becomes charged with meaning. The object becomes more than the object. The action becomes more than the action. That is how ritual begins. Smoke may have helped ancient humans turn stress into story. Instead of fear being a raw sensation inside the body, smoke gave the group something outside the body to watch. The fear rises, the prayer rises, the memory rises, the unknown rises. And when the smoke disappears, the mind can feel as if something has changed. Maybe the world did not change, but the internal state changed. And for a human nervous system under pressure, that difference matters, because relief does not always begin with a solved problem. Sometimes relief begins when pain is given form. Smoke became meaning because it allowed humans to see the invisible. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We do not simply observe the world, we narrate it. If a plant burns and a person feels calmer, alert, dizzy, comforted, or connected, the mind links cause and meaning. Maybe this plant is special. Maybe the smoke carries strength. Maybe the smell protects us. Maybe this ritual pleases something unseen. The line between physical effect and symbolic meaning is not sharp in early human life. A body sensation can become a belief. A belief can become a tradition. A tradition can become identity. That is how a practice survives across generations. Not because every person understands the chemistry, but because the group remembers the feeling. And once a feeling becomes culturally important, it can outlive the original reason. Smoke is also perfect for memory because smell is emotionally powerful. A smell can bring back a place, a person, a warning, or a ritual faster than language. If a certain plant smoke appeared during healing, hunting, mourning, or celebration, its smell could become linked with those states. Later, the same smell could call the emotion back. This is how atmosphere becomes memory, and memory, repeated enough, becomes culture. Ritual is one of the oldest technologies of the human mind. A ritual is not powerful because every step has a practical function. It is powerful because the steps are repeated, symbolic, structured, and emotionally charged. When reality feels chaotic, ritual gives the brain a smaller world it can control. Do this first, then this, then wait, then watch, then share, then speak, then become quiet. That sequence may not control the weather, the hunt, the illness, or death, but it controls attention, and attention changes experience. When the brain is anxious, it scans too widely. It searches for threats, possibilities, mistakes, and losses. Ritual narrows the field. It tells the nervous system where to place the eyes, hands, breath, and expectation. This is why humans still use rituals before exams, performances, weddings, funerals, sports, religious services, meals, and private moments of grief. Ritual says, this moment matters, and we know how to enter it. For ancient humans, smoke was ideal for ritual because it involves so many senses at once. You can see it, smell it, feel it in the throat, watch it rise, wait for it to fade. The repetition becomes embodied. The body learns the sequence before the mind explains it. And when a ritual is shared, its power becomes stronger. One person may be frightened, but when the whole group sits in the same circle, watches the same smoke, hears the same words, and follows the same rhythm, private fear becomes collective meaning. This is why smoke rituals may have been psychologically useful even before anyone understood nicotine, chemistry, or addiction. The ritual itself could reduce anxiety by creating structure. It could make uncertainty feel less infinite. It could transform helplessness into participation. In a chaotic world, ritual creates the feeling of a handle. It does not always move the world, but it gives the mind something to hold. And sometimes that is enough for the brain to calm down. This is also why ritual can survive even when people cannot fully explain it. Ask someone why a certain tradition matters, and sometimes the answer is not a logical argument. It is because this is what we do when someone dies. This is what we do before danger. This is what we do when we are afraid. This is what our people do. That answer is not weak, it is psychological. Ritual stores emotion in a repeatable form. It turns overwhelming experience into choreography. The hands know where to go. The eyes know what to watch. The group knows when to be silent. In that sense, ritual is memory with a body. Smoke made that memory visible. Every time it rose, the group could feel that the moment had entered a different category. Ritual also protects the mind from randomness. A random world feels psychologically unbearable because the brain is built for prediction. If nothing can be predicted, anxiety expands. Ritual creates a small zone of prediction. The steps are known, the sequence is known, the symbols are known. Inside that sequence, the brain gets a temporary island of order. This is why rituals often appear around moments the brain finds hardest to tolerate: birth, death, illness, danger, transition, and uncertainty. Before smoking became a private habit, it may have been a shared moment. The image of a lone smoker is modern. Ancient smoke likely belonged to the circle, the fire, the ceremony, the group, the elder, the healer, the hunter, the grieving family, or the gathering before danger. Humans are tribal creatures. We do not only copy behaviors because they feel good, we copy behaviors because they tell us who belongs. A shared ritual creates a boundary between us and them. The people inside the circle know the meaning. The people outside the circle do not. That makes the action socially powerful. Passing an object, inhaling a scent, sitting in silence, watching smoke rise, or repeating a gesture together can make the group feel more unified. Modern people still understand this. We share coffee breaks, we raise glasses, we light candles, we sing together, we gather around screens. We use small rituals to create belonging. The substance matters, but the social frame matters too. A habit becomes stronger when it is tied to identity. This is one reason social smoking can be so sticky even today. People may not crave only nicotine, they may crave the pause, the permission to step outside, the friend who joins them, the conversation that happens there, the feeling of being included without needing to explain anything. In ancient life, that bonding power would have mattered even more. A group that rituals together remembers together. A group that shares fear together becomes harder to break. So smoke was not only something that entered the body, it entered the group identity. It could say, we are together before the hunt. We are together after the death. We are together in front of what we cannot control. That social meaning could make the behavior emotionally durable. Even before addiction, belonging can train repetition, and belonging is one of the strongest rewards the human brain knows. There is also a status dimension. In many groups, not everyone gets equal access to powerful objects or sacred actions. An elder, healer, shaman, hunter, or respected figure may control when the ritual happens and what it means. That makes smoke more than a sensation. It becomes authority, permission, and social order. Who prepares the plant? Who lights it? Who receives it first? Who is allowed to speak? Who must remain silent? These details turn a substance into a social system. Even today, habits are strengthened by cues of status and belonging. People learn not only what to do, but when it is appropriate, who does it, and what kind of person it makes them appear to be. Ancient smoke may have carried that same social weight. The shared breath dimension also matters symbolically. Breathing is one of the intimate and automatic acts of life. When a group shares smoke, scent, silence, and timing, their bodies may begin to coordinate. They inhale, pause, watch, and wait together. Coordination makes people feel connected. Even simple synchrony can turn separate individuals into a felt group. In that sense, smoke could become a social metronome. But every ritual has a shadow. The same thing that calms the brain can also train the brain to need it. This is where the story moves from sacred smoke to addiction loops. At the beginning, a behavior can feel like a solution. The body is stressed, the ritual begins, the smoke rises, the group becomes quiet, the feeling changes. The brain remembers that sequence: stress, smoke, relief. If the substance also changes brain chemistry, the memory becomes stronger. With tobacco, nicotine interacts with the brain's reward systems, including dopamine-related pathways involved in learning, motivation, and reinforcement. That does not mean ancient people thought in neurochemical terms. They did not need to. The body learns before language. If a repeated behavior creates relief, alertness, calm, belonging, or a shift in mood, the nervous system takes notes. At first, the practice says, "This helps me calm down." Later, it can become, "I need this to feel normal." That is the dangerous transformation. Relief becomes repetition. Repetition becomes expectation. Expectation becomes craving. Craving becomes dependence. A ritual can become a cage when the mind loses the ability to enter relief without it. This is not unique to tobacco. The same psychological pattern appears in many human behaviors. Scrolling, overeating, gambling, alcohol, endless work, drama, validation, and compulsive entertainment can all begin as relief. They start as an exit from discomfort. Then they become the route the brain keeps demanding. Addiction often begins as a solution before it becomes a prison. That sentence matters because it removes moral laziness from the story. Humans do not usually become dependent because they simply want to ruin themselves. They become dependent because something gives relief at the exact moment relief is needed. The brain rewards the escape. Then the escape slowly becomes the problem. That is the tragedy hidden inside the first smoke. The human mind searches for peace, but the tools we use to find peace can sometimes learn to control us. The key is repetition under emotion. A behavior done once may be forgotten. A behavior repeated during fear, grief, hunger, preparation, victory, or belonging becomes emotionally tagged. The brain does not treat all memories equally. It prioritizes what helped during discomfort. That is why relief is such a powerful teacher. If the ritual happens when the body is tense and the body feels different afterward, the ritual becomes marked as useful. If the group also rewards the ritual with belonging, approval, or identity, the loop becomes stronger. If the substance inside the ritual also produces a neurochemical effect, the loop becomes stronger again. This layered reinforcement is what makes some habits so hard to separate from the self. You are not only losing a substance, you are losing a pause, a role, a memory, a social doorway, and a method of self-regulation. This is why the line between ritual and addiction is not always visible at first. From the outside, the behavior may look the same. A person reaches for the object, the body repeats the motion, the moment changes. But inside, the meaning has shifted. In ritual, the person uses the behavior to enter meaning. In addiction, the behavior begins to use the person to escape discomfort. The difference is control. One expands life, the other quietly narrows it. Before we judge ancient humans, we should look at what we gather around today. We may not sit around the prehistoric fire every night, but we still gather around glowing rectangles. The campfire became the phone screen. The smoke became the endless feed. The ritual became unlock, scroll, refresh, repeat. Modern humans have new objects, but the nervous system is ancient. We still search for relief from uncertainty. We still look for quick transitions when the body feels uncomfortable. We still use repeated actions to change emotional state. We still confuse comfort with healing. After a stressful day, someone reaches for a cigarette. Someone else reaches for coffee. Someone else reaches for food, a screen, a drink, a game, a message, or another episode. Different object, same question. How do I escape this feeling? This is why the story of ancient smoke is not only about tobacco, it is about a pattern inside human beings. We create rituals around relief. Then we confuse the ritual with the relief itself. The danger is not that humans seek comfort. The danger is forgetting to ask what kind of comfort is training us. Does this ritual restore me, or does it make me smaller? Does it connect me, or does it isolate me? Does it give me meaning, or does it only delay discomfort? Does it help me face life, or help me disappear from life? These questions are not ancient. They are modern, immediate, and personal. Because every age has its own smoke. Every age has its own fire. Every age has a way to turn pain into ritual. The ancient mind is not gone. It is sitting in front of a new glow. And the same brain that once watched smoke rise into the sky now watches blue light rise from a screen. The modern world often mocks ancient ritual while creating millions of rituals of its own. We check the phone before getting out of bed. We refresh notifications when anxious. We buy coffee not only for caffeine, but for the feeling of beginning the day. We scroll before sleep, even when it steals sleep. We open apps without deciding to open them. These behaviors may look rational because they are modern, but psychologically, many of them are rituals around discomfort. They give the hands something to do. They give attention a place to land. They create a tiny promise that the next moment will feel different. The ancient fire has changed form, but the search has not. This does not mean every comfort is bad. Comfort is necessary. Rest, food, connection, beauty, warmth, and play are part of a healthy nervous system. The problem begins when a comfort becomes the only bridge between the self and emotional regulation. If you cannot feel calm without the ritual has become more than a ritual. It has become a dependency. That is the ancient lesson in modern language. So when did ancient humans start smoking? The honest answer is complicated. The earliest strong clues show very ancient tobacco use, but not necessarily smoking exactly as we imagine it today. The deeper answer is more interesting. Humans did not just smoke because of plants. Humans smoked because the mind has always searched for relief, meaning, belonging, and escape. Smoke mattered because it sat at the intersection of body and symbol. It could change sensation. It could mark a ritual. It could bring a group together. It could make fear feel visible. It could turn helplessness into action. And eventually, when repeated enough, it could become a loop. This is the ancient contradiction inside human nature. We are not only creatures who survive the outside world. We are creatures who try to survive the inside world too. Hunger, cold, grief, uncertainty, loneliness, fear, boredom, pain, and memory all demand answers. Sometimes we answer with tools. Sometimes we answer with stories. Sometimes we answer with substances. Sometimes we answer with rituals. And sometimes those answers help us. Other times they quietly begin to own us. Maybe the first smoke was not just the beginning of a habit. Maybe it was one of the first signs that humans were not only trying to survive the world outside them, they were also trying to survive the world inside them. If this made you think differently about ancient humans, comment below. What do you think was humanity's first real addiction? Smoke, comfort, control, or escape? And if you want more deep psychology of the ancient mind, stay with Psychify Sager. That is why this story should not end with judgment. It should end with awareness. Ancient humans were not stupid for being drawn to smoke. They were human. They were trying to manage bodies that feared death, minds that searched for meaning, and groups that needed cohesion. Modern humans are not so different. We still look for ways to soften the pressure of being alive. The question is not whether we seek relief. We always will. The better question is whether our relief gives us back to life or slowly removes us from it. That may be the real lesson of the first smoke. The oldest habits are not only about what humans consume, they're about what humans cannot bear to feel without help. So the first smoke is not only a question about the past, it is a mirror held up to the present. It asks us to notice what we reach for when life feels too large. It asks whether our rituals make us more present or more absent. And it asks whether the thing that once helped us survive has slowly become the thing preventing us from becoming free.